experience to e-commerce. I think we'll be able to entertain you for the next 1 hour. And I have a very amazing panel with me. I've been a part of a lot of panels, but very excited to be on this one. The reason why, because I think we have Maheep, over 11 years of experience in e-commerce, possibly one of the biggest brands that the country has produced in e-commerce from Flipkart. Maheep heads mobile apps. Then we have Abhishek. Abhishek again with over 13 years of experience, last 4 in grocery retail. Now Abhishek is head of Barkat Fresh in UAE. And then we have Srikanth. Srikanth is head of Matahari, head of e-commerce and omni-channel at Matahari. Again, very rich experience over, I think, 11 years, right? And across e-commerce. And I come from a background of banking, insurance, and food with Domino's India for the last 2.5 years, now with Trent Retail for 7, and the remaining 10 with a lot of banking and insurance players, including HSBC and Aegon Life Insurance, which was country's first online life insurance player. So I hope we are able to add a lot of value to you in the next 1 hour. So I'll start with Srikanth. My question to you, Srikanth, would be, with your experience across the retail industry, Srikanth, and you've been here for long, like LimeRod and Yebhi, and then you moved on to Landmark and now with Matahari. How do you see traditional players? Like I'm also a part of Tata Trent now, which is a traditional retail player, very strong in traditional retail. Now we are also focusing on digital. So how would you see these retail players are now planning to embrace digital? And we need to, right? Because that is what is happening globally. Otherwise, you're going to stand out and lose. So how do you see this change from traditional players who are coming online and embracing digital or the omni-channel approach?
Thanks for the question. So first of all, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here. So I have been fortunate enough to be with the traditional retailers. So I spent 4 years with Landmark Group in Dubai and pretty much traveled the whole of the Middle East there. And now in Indonesia, part of Matahari department store, which is unarguably the biggest department store chain in Indonesia. So I think where I come from, traditional retailers today, they don't have an option. They have to adapt. And I think this one rightly says evolve, adapt, or die. We have seen what has happened in the US. We have seen what has happened in UK, the likes of Sears, JCPenney, Toys R Us, Macy's, even Debenhams, and John Lewis is suffering. So the biggest reason for that has been attributed to Amazon, right, and to the lot of other e-commerce companies. So even the traditional retailers definitely needs to consider e-commerce as a very strong competition, and because at the end of the day, it's retailing. It doesn't matter. It's just a different channel, right? So you have a pure play and you have a brick and mortar business. So the way I have personally seen in Landmark, so there was a time like 5 years back, we just had our apps, and it was more of a multi-channel approach. We had our apps, which was doing e-commerce, and then we had of course our brick and mortar business. But then there was no way it was integrated, and then this is where it became important for us to understand that what is the business model we want to follow. It's also not a rat race that everybody wants to have an e-commerce site. It needs to solve some of the business cases, right? So one of our use case was, of course, that we can go further beyond our stores where we don't have a store presence. How do we leverage on tech and really add incremental sales? That's one. Second is, these are traditional retailers who have been in the business for 3 decades, 4 decades, or 5. So they have a certain clientele, so who are generally they're like the baby boomers, because that's when the business started. So now when you look into Generation Z, now when you look into millennials, so they may not find the traditional retailers that exciting, considering they've got so many options. So it is extremely important for traditional retailers, if they want to survive, they have to adapt to digital initiatives. They need to ensure that how they kind of segment their customers, or how personalized they can get to lure customers and to keep them happy and keep them coming back to the stores again and again. So which basically means that they have to have a digital transformation, or rather a business transformation, to attract the Generation Z, to attract the millennials. And you can only do that if you consider competition from pure players as a fierce competitor. So you have to do that, you have to learn from that, and then you have to apply that, because these are the customers who will be your next 20-year customers. So traditional retailers, I think it's inevitable for them to adopt digital. There is no other option. But then it's about how do you adopt that, because it comes with heavy investment, and then you really want to have a confirmed or a defined ROI to that. So the idea is that this is how I've been doing as well with Matahari and Landmark. It is about how do I add incremental value but not incremental cost. So basically, it's all about leveraging of your offline infrastructure. So for Matahari, where I am today in Indonesia, we have 157 odd stores across the archipelago. Indonesia has 18,000 islands. But primarily, these are 6 to 7 big islands where you have majority of the population. So we have some 157 stores out there. So the whole idea is how do we bring in omni-channel? How do we ensure that we have a web presence, but then how do we ensure that we leverage on our offline infrastructure, our offline stores, our offline people, even internally, my marketing team, how do I work closely with them and then add additional value? So there are multiple ways. I think it can take hours and hours if I need to explain how we can make it happen. But then the idea has to be that traditional retailers have to adapt to changing customer demands. They need to be extremely innovative. And then they need to also consider what their strength areas are and then add incremental value. I think it's inevitable, and everyone needs to have a different approach. But then there are these certain use cases, which is what are they trying to solve? One is to ensure that they are getting new customers. They are getting the old customers as well. They're retaining them, and it's adding to the incremental sales, and then considering them as well as similar to any other pure players. So there should not be any more distinction. At the end of the day, it is retailing, be it e-commerce or brick and mortar. They have to complement each other, and they have to go together.
Yeah, what I really like about you, Srikanth, liked about your session is the two key things that you brought out, right? Where are your next customers for the next 20 years going to come from? So what I also see in traditional channels and their approach is, they say e-commerce is not very profitable. It's not really means, profitable ROI for me. But the point is, you may not be present digitally, but your customers are. The people who are walking into your stores by default with 220 million people on Facebook and 60 million now on Instagram, all of your customers who are now walking into your stores are online. I mean, if you will be very surprised, I'm sure a lot of you know in this room, most active group on Facebook is 55 plus women in that category. So our parents are online, our kids are online, so you can't afford not to be online. Even if it's not about driving sales immediately online, it's about influencing the next 20 years of customers who are going to walk into your stores, as Srikanth rightly pointed out. And the other thing I think Srikanth really pointed out, which stands out, is for a brand like Trent Retail, which is West Side, we have 134 stores across the country. The cost of opening a store is very high. I'm sure all of you know that. But the cost of opening a digital store is not very high. If I'm not present in a tier 3, tier 4 town, I can still service that customer. And I can tell you today, from our digital sales, 24% of our sales comes from tier 2 and tier 3 cities where we don't have a presence. We don't have a store. I'm sure the same is true from Flipkart and Amazon. And I think Mahip will throw a lot of light when we come to him. But if you want to really reach customers in tier 3 and 4, you can't ignore e-commerce. So instead of looking at it as a pure play ROI model, I think we have to look at e-commerce as an omni-channel approach. And even if you're not looking at absolute ROI, look at it for presence and depth. So thank you, Srikanth. I'll come to you, Abhishek. My question, Abhishek, to you is from the background, from the industry that you are from, for grocery. How different is your challenge from an industry like retail or travel or food? Because your challenge would be very different from a QSR player or from a travel player or from pure retail, because it's all about logistics. It's all about the inventory that you have and reverse logistics, cancellations. How difficult is e-commerce for a category like yours? If you can help us understand that.
Yeah. Good evening, first of all. When I talk about online grocery, right? So the way it is different than any other industry is that we are handling perishables. And perishables, when I talk about, these are short shelf life products which last for not more than a day. And these contribute to more than 60% of the overall revenue. So the biggest challenge comes here is in terms of inventory management. So the inventory might be accurate at the end of the day for a normal retail store. But the moment you take it online, you need accurate as well as real-time information, which is not the case in an omni-channel player. So what happened is, when any traditional retailer, traditional offline retailer, when they try to adapt the e-commerce business, what they try to do is they try to put a platform in place that would be a website or an app to take the orders, and maybe a WMS system, OMS system to process the orders and deliver it. But where they really fail to understand is the accuracy and the real-time syncing of all these platforms, so that there is no customer dissonance when he's trying to place an order, or even while he's trying to walk into a store or trying to place an order through any of the platforms. So one major challenge where I differentiate online grocery from any other domain, any other industry, would be in terms of handling perishables. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Abhishek. Mahip, coming to you. Flipkart is the big daddy of e-commerce. So please help add value, to what Srikanth and what Abhishek said. Do you have what are your views on their inputs, if you can share?
So I think, see both the channels, right? I think whether it is offline, if it is specific to grocery or if it is specific to, brick or mortar, I think you will find challenges depending on the very, very market specific, right? If I have to just touch upon the grocery part, I think perishable is, one of the parts, but I think if you just look at an e-commerce grocery, I was a part of Big Basket earlier, the major problem is you can run all your marketing campaigns, right? And, you can drive a lot of customers, but can you deliver it, right? Like he said, that order fulfillment is one of the important things, but I think more important is, in grocery, if you have ordered, anything, you would need it in X hours. If you're not delivering it, unlike brick and mortar store, there is no interaction, right? The customer lost is lost, right? He will probably go to your competition and he will never come back because he's not getting grocery, right? Like what he said about a tier 2 market, I would like to say that for grocery, it is very, very different in India. We did a very deep case study, and it figures out that how e-commerce, essentially like Flipkart, in a tier 2 city plays a very, very important role. The individual is very, very different. For grocery specifically, if you ask me, it is not something that he's buying for himself. If I want to buy a shirt, I'll buy a shirt online. If it is not good, nobody's going to tell me. But if I buy, let's say, rotten potatoes and let's say rotten fruits, everybody in my family is going to tell me that you bought it for them, right? And that was a main reason that Big Basket started something offline, and that was going to localities where people can touch and feel it. And that essentially gave them confidence that whatever essentially they're going to order it will be actually good.
So in that sense, and what I understand is the entry barrier for a brand, like let's say Godrej or Godrej traditionally to a Big Basket. Big Basket is traditionally online players, and I would say Godrej,
Yeah.
Which has a lot of offline presence, and we're talking about retail players who are building online channels. You have to invest significantly in logistics to make sure it works. Like for a brand like Trent Retail, you don't have to really invest significantly, or for a traditional retail player, I can partner with a delivery, make sure logistics works, and I can just deliver, right? But for your category, I mean, there has to be a significant amount of investment made in online retail. So how does this happen? I mean, is that why brands take time to come online and start the digital channel, or do you think that this is something that is?
Yeah, so if you just look at two models, right? One is an inventory model and one is a direct model where you go tie up with the small shopkeepers or a retail store and supply, right? The difference essentially is what you want to provide to the end customer, right? If you want a very, very good customer experience, I would suggest that the inventory model is something which online players take time to build, because
You'll have to own the inventory, right? Because if
you have to own the inventory.
Shop,
yes.
For a brand like Godrej, if they are delivering rotten stuff, your brand image takes a hit. So you can't do that, right?
Yeah, but I think at the same time, I will tell you a very, very classic example. So, Big Basket's, order fulfillment ratio versus Grofers fulfillment ratio in India. I'm customer for both, but a lot of times when I order something, I would not get a same brand of, let's say, a jam or a butter, but I would get some other thing and I have to, keep returning it. That is not good for your customers, right? So even when, Amazon started as a pantry in Hyderabad, if you see, it was, started as this thing, but later on when the inventory model was adopted, it was basis on what are you fulfilling to the customers and are your customers are satisfied? Because the grocery or let's say even you take it in e-commerce itself, right? If you are owning the inventory, it is very very easy for you to predict demand, right, and also fulfill it. So for example, a big billion day sale essentially at Flipkart, it would be that big that if I am, let's say, entrusting the same inventory at a third party, right, it is very difficult for me to fulfill those million of orders. But yes, you are right that there is a lot of investment which goes on. Today, around 38% of the inventory management at Flipkart is, completely robotics that, they have done it. And I think that is very, very necessary because it's easy for you to service customer, and at the end of the day, you don't want, customer to come back on Twitter and tell you that, you keep ordering stuff, but you're getting a different stuff, right? I think a lot of Indian examples of the brands where you go and buy, you don't get those product, and I think that is where the loyalty of the customer gets lost.
Yeah, I think very valid example, a very valid point. But I think something that I would want to add is, as a player who is looking at expanding digitally, you have to get your logistics right. The one reason why Domino's has made it so big digitally is where from I was heading digital e-commerce at Domino's from 2016 to 18 is we had logistics always right. It was all about creating more demand digitally. So digital helped you to reach more customers, but you had logistics in place. A 30-minute promise was always met whenever a customer placed on the orders online. We were just able to reach more cities, penetrate deeper, and get more customers online. But like Maheep said, if you can't deliver the right products using digital channel, then your brand is going to take a beating, and then you'll not be able to come back and reach new customers, acquire them, because digital platforms are relentless. Once you mess up, you piss off one customer, he's going to write something and 40,000 are going to read it. So that's the point. If you're traditional channel, if you're going digital, make sure logistics, at least reverse logistics, cancellation, everything is in place before you go and service those digital orders.
I think just to add on to this, like my personal experience with Landmark Group and now with Matahari. So I think the discussion was right regarding whether you should own the inventory, but then that comes with a huge capex, be it buying that inventory and then maintaining warehouses and people and stuff. And then there you have marketplace. But on the marketplace, the investment may be low, but then your experience is at a compromised position. You don't want either of them. So this is where I think being as a traditional retailer, having a brick and mortar presence is what you can leverage on to drive both those solutions, right? From an investment standpoint, like when I talk about my P&L, it becomes very easy for me because I'm gonna fulfill from my stores. So my store anyways had that inventory. So the vendors who supply to my store, they get an additional channel without much of an OPEX. So they're happy about it. It's an additional revenue. And the inventory I'm going to liquidate is from the store itself, which further helps the stores because we will offer initiatives such as click and collect, order online, collected from store, which is more people coming into the store and collecting, which is added footfall, which means there can be a windfall sales and they may end up doing some offline purchase, right? And then having the store presence would allow you to come up with algorithms which will make sure that availability and proximity logics, which basically means if a customer is closest to my store, I would select that store to fulfill the order so that I can control on my expenses on logistics and control on my warehousing. So it kind of solves us because the experience is still with the company. That's how we do it. We have the experience with us, so we'll make sure it's consistent. And inventory is also ours, but then it's not a separate buy, which we have done for online. It's the same inventory. So, and the inventory replenishment will happen only get better, and then the liquidation is also getting better. So which basically means if you have a faster turnaround time, the chances of you deep discounting as a retailer goes down, which means you are ending up with higher margins. So it's a win-win scenario for brick and mortar as well as for e-commerce channels, because at the end of the day, you're looking into the same P&L, which is the overall sales, which is both online and offline, and the overall expenses, which you need to leverage from each other.
Fantastic point. So now I just want to have your individual views on one basic aspect of customer acquisition, because you have significant advantages when you have a very high footfall walk into at Barakat Fresh and at Matahari. Flipkart is all digital, right? And so also if I talk about trend, we have a lot of footfall for customers who walk into our traditional stores. So I'll give you an example of Domino's, where we are over 1,200 branches across the country. So for me to drive digital penetration, what we did was very simple. When you come into a Domino's store, you place an order and you're waiting for 15-20 minutes for your pizza. So we had a lot of promoters who used to go walk up to these customers and ask them, do you have a mobile app for Domino's on your device? If not, I can show you how to download the app. We used to provide Wi-Fi connections. show the customer how to download the app, how to order a pizza, and also give him a free chocolava if he's adding products to his cart and tweeting or posting it on Instagram so that more people are watching it. So that is the advantage if you have a retail strength or presence in as many cities as Domino's had. So you don't have to spend money online always to go and acquire new users. So I want to ask you guys, specifically you, Abhishek, you can share, what is your strategy to acquire customers digitally? Do you look at user migration from your existing consumers who walk into your stores, or you are looking at more new customers online?
Okay, so first of all, when we initially started, online channel was considered as a cannibalizer to offline channel. So what we could say is whenever we used to run any kind of digital campaign, we used to get a lot of customers who were basically shopping with us only for the sake of discounts. But over a longer period, 6 months, a year or a two, these customers were definitely not our long-term customers. So over a period of 2 years, over a period of 3 years on longer term, the best strategy that turned out in favor of us was there are 3 things. One is you have to create an experience center, a consumption center, and a delivery center. Now, how do you define an experience center? So for us, an experience center was basically a store. So what we wanted is, if you want to really sustain a customer, if you want to acquire a customer from longer term point of view, you have to first of all engage with the customer, you have to excite the customer, you have to tell the customer what exactly is the brand about, what are the products that we carry. So it is very, very important, you bring your customer to a retail store, because the level of engagement that you can have with a customer in a retail store cannot be replicated online. So once you acquire the customer there, in order for him to again come and visit the store, shop with us again, he can use the other channel, which is the online channel. So what turned out over a period of 2 years, 3 years, and this is something that I'm a firm believer of right now, is your offline channel is basically a center which will give experience to the customer. They will tell you about the brand, you engage with the brand, you do sampling, you tell about new promotions, upcoming products. And in case the customer wants to shop again with you, he will shop online. What we observed over a period of time, our loyal customers, they retained with us, and at the same time, they continued shopping with us at a higher frequency. A customer who used to just come to our store maybe twice a month, we saw him coming to the store once, but shopping thrice online. So the average basket value, the average contribution of that customer to the revenue eventually increased. So the way I would put is, in a nutshell, online channel is a convenience channel, and the offline channel is a channel through which you acquire customers.
Mahip, for you, everything is online, but you advertise a lot also on offline channels. How do you use that as a strategy to get customers to come online? You don't have a retail front, but you use a lot of offline mediums to get customers online.
So offline channel essentially has been used broadly for branding, right? Whenever you want to create a burst, whenever we know there are, campaigns around, whether it is, the Valentine's Day, which is today, or it's a 26th January or a big billion day, there would be a burst and you would see a lot of organic traffic coming in, right? I think the point is not that can you generate demand. I think the point is, can you also differentiate if those customers essentially who are coming via your offline means are identifiable or not, right? So, and we have a way to look at a user journey, where we can also segregate that what is organic versus impact on, organic, which is also due to only that burst. So we identify that, as well as, since it is digital, everything is being trackable, right? Like how we said is, they need to create, let's say if it's offline, you have to create an experience center, then a consumption center. We don't have to do really that, right? If you have a campaign on and you are already sitting on X million devices, which is already active, all I have to do is probably just run a retargeting campaign, right? Bring them back, show them a sale banner or a promotion, and basically you're done, depending on how much ROI essentially that you need, right? also on a acquisition front, I think it plays a very, very important role, because if there is no branding, specifically if I go to a tier 2 or a tier 3 city, that's a new market which comes for us, right? I think we were talking that around 28% of the market is what you see opportunity on. For us, fortunately, it is more than 40%, and it is still huge and growing in even a tier 3 cities. And there, if you see, the offline promotion works very well, because most of the places, we are becoming tech savvy and using these payment options, but people still don't have a purchasing power to probably buy online immediately. But when essentially they see ad everywhere on TV or on Facebook or at different places, I think internal references work, and probably I'm buying it, but it's my dad's phone or a credit card which I'm probably using, right? Cash on delivery is really high there. And I think offline means essentially it influence your to expand market, and grocery is something that we've also started, right? And we want to probably reach there.
Shrikant, then if you can add to it and tell me what exactly do you do in terms of using your retail fronts to drive more customers to come to your traditional digital channels from traditional mediums.
So one of the use cases we had before we did a digital transformation was talking about the pain areas we have today. So let's say even in Matahari, Matahari was the first modern trade retailer in Indonesia. It went all the way back in 1958 when they launched their first store. So the generations who have shopped in Matahari is very old now. So our median age is actually over 40 years, which used to be the case till a year back. But so that was one of the big reasons why we wanted to really change our perception, right? Of course, it cannot be done overnight. It's a very long journey. But then, so this is where, in terms of customer segmentation and in terms of your targeted customer base, what we thought was that, of course, e-commerce is something where we can probably experiment. With e-commerce is where we can try to onboard those brands which are young, which are youthful, which can kind of create a segmented customer base of millennials and Generation Z. Whereas traditionally, with the median age of 40, it was getting very difficult for us to immediately transform overnight our brick and mortar business, which is our main department store. So coming back to your question of targeting, of course, we have to target the new customer base, because as I said earlier, whatever you target right now, these will be your customers for the next decade or two. So, and that's an ongoing exercise which you need to continuously do. And also then you got to retarget your existing customer base. For us, it was easy. It was not very easy, but then it wasn't too difficult considering we had a very strong loyalty program. So looking into big data, again, we could figure out that how many of our actually users are active, right? How many have made the last purchase in the last 6 months or in the last 1 year? And then targeted campaigns for them, how personalized we can get out there, and try to segment those customers is something which we started doing as well. So it was not just about retargeting, but it was also about acquiring new customers. But then at the end of the day, you just need to understand that to really drive omnichannel business, it is very critical that, and this is something which has been evident, we have seen with multiple players, that omnichannel customers contribute 3x as compared to any other multi-channel customer. So that further motivates us, and that further kind of justifies the investment you actually do, because it over a period of time, it definitely gives you a ROI, which the management wants.
So I'll just add to what the gentlemen here have said. The point that I would also like to make is that Domino's, when we have to target a dormant customer, and that's the beauty that this platform allows you. So a customer has not walked into my store, he may not be a digital customer. The point is he's not walked into my store for the last 60 days, 90 days, 120. You create different segments, and you know this customer is on Facebook or Instagram. I know this customer orders cheese burst, or this customer orders thin crust. He's fitness enthusiast, or somebody who likes a peppy paneer. You customize, you personalize the product communication. You target him at a particular time, which is during lunch hours or dinner hours, and then you target him on a specific day that he's used to ordering. So we had launched Navratra pizza during Navratri. So that's a pizza targeted only to people who are fasting. So you know the number of customers who ordered that pizza and who have not come back and ordered again. So you create a separate product targeting only these customers and reach out to them at a particular time when again there's a separate season for fasting, and you get them to come online and download your app and order. I don't know any other platform that would allow you this flexibility, this reach, this measurement. So that's why I think even for traditional players, it's very important to use digital as a channel, not only to drive online sales, but also to drive traffic back to your stores. And I think that is what the people here have been doing diligently. And another point that Abhishek that you made about people saying online is a channel that cannibalizes. I have faced this very frequently in company that I have headed e-commerce for, that people think if I launch a digital channel, my traditional channel will suffer and they will die. So I'll give you an example again. Numbers are hypothetical, but so at Domino's we took a database of customers who walked into our stores 3 times. So let's say a frequency of customer who orders a Domino's pizza is 5 times a year. He walks into my outlet 5 times a year. That's approximately once in 2 months. He orders a pizza at my store. So we took a segment, we did a test case, and we said we'll target these customers with online communication, get them to download our app and see what happens. So we studied this behavior for a period of another year, targeted a certain set of customers, got them to download our app. This guy still ordered pizzas 5 times a year while walking into my store, but he ordered pizzas online 4 times a year. This 4 was incremental business for the channel, for the company. And this was only possible because he had downloaded a Domino's Pizza app, he had a higher share of mind recall, and he was constantly hit with more communication. So those 4 extra transactions that the brand got throughout the year was possible because of digital. So the next time I think people come to you and tell you that digital will cannibalize your channel, tell them to create a test case, tell them to launch a test and test it throughout, and then check for the results that happen after a period of, let's say, a quarter or 6 months, and then talk with facts rather than assumption that if I launch a traditional channel, it will eat into my the digital channel will eat into my traditional business.
Just to add on to that, of course, because we've been in the digital business, and this is the exact same question which we get from everyone. So the way we addressed it, that for retailers, right? Let's talk about the real scenario. Why do they think, or why is this whole cannibalization coming in? It's only because every store staff, they get incentive for every sale they make. Now, basically, e-commerce is biting into that sales. They're losing out on those incentives. That's how this whole topic is coming up. So with omnichannel, what we try to do is that we offer click and collect, and made it kind of incentivized our customers to go for click and collect to avoid shipping charges, let's say. So that was an incentive for customer not to choose home delivery, go for click and collect. So when it happens, so the fulfillment is going to happen from that store. So it's the store's inventory. So now I'm going to attribute that particular sale back to the store. So again, the store staff is happy. He's got his incentive there. So, and then this whole question of cannibalization, it just goes away. So it's just about how you perceive things, and it's always a top to bottom approach. So we just need to make sure that our KPIs are set in such a way that the actual people who are there in the stores, they need to be motivated enough to push for your digital sales, because that is extremely critical in a retail environment.
Yeah, they have to have a share in the pie. So like for Domino's, every customer who walked into the outlet and downloaded an app and he made a first order, we incentivized the guy who had got them to download the app. Similarly, at the West Side, we are making sure when we launch a plan, we make sure the guy who's helping a customer download the app, and every transaction that happens, there is some incentive going to the online store, on the storefront of the guy who's helped him download the app. Otherwise, he's obviously not, there's no skin in the game for him to get the customer download the app, right? Yeah, Abhishek, you want to add?
Yeah, one more point to add here. On similar lines, at Nature's Basket, we faced a similar issue that obviously it was treated as a separate channel, as a cannibalizer. But with the change in the metrics where a particular store would be responsible for overall sales, whether they get it through the online channel, the home delivery, or through the offline sales, they would be just given one target, and they are supposed to get the sales from any of the channels. So that was number one. The metric was completely changed, which changed their mindset, their perspective of viewing this the e-commerce channel separately. The other thing was, which is a challenge that cropped up, is if a store team wants to establish an online channel, which would roughly be contributing around 10 to 12% of the overall store revenue, a store manager, a store team would definitely ask the question that why we should be putting all the efforts just for an incremental 10% sale. And if you really try to understand the effort that needs to be put into to streamline the process in terms of inventory management, where your inventory accuracy has to be more than 95%, the efforts are almost double. So a store team might always come back to the management and ask that why, almost 50% more effort just for 10% of additional sales. So this is how, this is one challenge that we, that we kept on facing. But, the moment we change the KPI, the moment we change this metric, what turned out in our favor was, if you look at both the channels, our store teams were achieving almost 95, 96, 97% of their target, of their monthly target. And every time they used to run short of 2 or 3% of the target, right? Now here's the magic. Online channel used to grow at a rate of 25, 30, 50% growth rate year on year. Your offline retail is growing at a rate of 6%, 8%, 10%, right? So that additional 3%, which they were falling short of, was actually achieved through the online channel, right? So if you really give a good service in the online channel, your sales are obviously going to, almost double, because that is a channel which more and more people are now adopting to. Yeah. So stores, what we observed over a period of time, stores which were really outperforming in the online, in the online channel, their fulfillment being very higher, their delivery service being higher, the customer satisfaction index being very higher, they were actually able to achieve the sales target because the online channel sales was growing almost 50%.
Great. Um, Coming to the next question, and this is something that I really want to personally also know. How do you guys manage this challenge, when you go up to your marketing head or the CMOs or the MDs for budgets? So I know personally that, when we go for budgets and we are asked this question, how do you define ROI? So when you spend on digital platforms, the ROI is the last click, the attribution, that the traffic, that conversion for the traffic that has come onto your platform that resulted into sales. You spend X rupees, what is the ROI that you have generated? But all of us know here that, a lot of traffic is digitally influenced, especially in a country like India. If you see the Deloitte study on retail, it says India is a country with the highest amount of influence on e-commerce and books. So how do you then define to your marketing heads or to your MDs that the money that I'm spending is not only driving customers to buy online, but it's also driving a lot of footfalls? So if you could throw some light on that, Srikanth, and then you could add on it.
Right. No, this is always that difficult time, right? When you're creating your budgets and you need a sign off from your CEO. But apart from talking the big talks about that this is the future, I think what is very important and what was kind of easy for me to drive it was we had a very important metric called ROPO, which is research online, purchase offline, which we were able to track basically on the basis of our loyalty program, that if a customer has been on any of the digital campaigns, we have a deep link. On that deep link, if you click on that, of course, it goes on to the landing page of your website and stuff. And there we would incentivize our customers to do click and collect or shop offline for additional discount or something. And then within the next 24 to 48 hours, it depends, it's all configurable. We could track that, yeah, these were the customers who actually went online, researched about the product, and then are now visiting in the store and making an offline sale. So there are ways of kind of attributing that, how offline is getting impacted, how e-commerce is influencing more walk-ins to offline, which is a big reason or big way to justify your online investments. Secondly, we tried one more thing. This was an experiment we did. So we came up with these voice interactive mirrors in our stores. So basically, it asked the customer. It had the face recognition and voice interactive systems, which would ask the customer, you want a selfie or you want a fashion inspiration? So people take selfies and then they can upload those selfies on our social media accounts, use a hashtag, get 10% off, join our email newsletter, which is more organic data for us. Secondly, they ask for fashion inspiration. So with fashion inspiration, we'll ask the normal questions and then take them through our product page on the website itself. And then they can immediately buy that, right? So what we saw is, and this is the real data, right? So with this, after 2 months of implementation, we saw 20% conversion of both online and offline, whoever has viewed the mirror. So that was also, because this sales is actually hitting the P&L of offline, not online, right? But the expenses are hitting online, so which is obviously, you don't want that equation to happen. You want those revenue to come in to increase your top line. But then any smart CEO or any smart CMO need to understand that how important it is to have a digital presence and how important it is to run an integrated solution, not siloed channels or multi-channel environment, and see the long-term impact. because there have been so many cases when it's proven results that you should not think about only a top line e-commerce sales as a key metric. Of course, that's a very important metric, but also think about your sustainable growth. Also think about how relevant you are to your customers, because today a customer spends more than 3 hours on his mobile. So if you're not there on his mobile, then you're not going to survive. So digital is the key.
Abhishek, your views on that?
Yeah, my view would be slightly different in this case because, as I earlier mentioned, the digital presence of a brand would be only to educate our customers and allow them, pull them to come and have an experience in the store. So a lot of our digital spend would be more about pushing those customers to go and shop in the store. So there would be, the moment they land in the store, there might be some offers that, for your next 3 orders, your next 5 orders, you'll be getting some X percentage of discount. And the reason is that we did have a digital presence. We used to talk a lot about a brand, both offline, online, about a website, ordering, the online ordering system, everything. We used to talk a lot about in the digital platform, but our focus always was that we should try to push all these customers from the digital platform into our stores so that they understand the experience, they understand the brand, they engage with the brand. And once you're inside the store, once you start shopping with the brand, obviously you have the online channel, you have the convenience channels through which you can shop more and more. As you cited an example that 4 transactions were made additional with the launch of the online channel. The similar approach is what we were following. We never wanted our customers, never wanted our customers to only shop online. In fact, with this approach, almost 75% of our customers who are shopping online, they shop offline. So this is what we've been always pushing to. We want our customers to go and experience offline and then get them converted into online.
So one more way, what I have found is really convincing to the CMOs is if you go them and show them, prove and ask for a very small pilot budget. So traditionally, let's say our marketing budget is X dollars. So we ask for 10% of the X dollars from marketing spend, not from digital. So let's say I want to do a YouTube store visit campaign. Most of you would know what it is. So basically you show somebody an ad on YouTube, and within a defined specified period of time, let's say 7 days or 15 or 30 depending upon your industry, you measure if this customer who's seen my ad on a mobile device walks into my store and makes a transaction. So if I'm Nike, if I'm Domino's, if I'm Trent, if I'm Mata Hari, it makes a lot of sense to me because this customer, let's say I want to target a customer who's dormant, not come into my store, I create a new ad that I've launched on TV, or I create a specific digital ad, target this customer on YouTube. Once I have known that this customer has watched my ad, completed my ad, and then I measure if he's in the next 30 days or 7 days walked into my store, made a transaction. That's obviously due to the latitude and longitude mapping on Google Maps, because you allow permission. 50% of devices are always on location on. So YouTube tells you 50% of the customers who watched your ad have walked into your store, and then you know an ROI to take back to your marketing and tell them. So this is a strong case for you to tell them, that we ran a ad, we know people who saw it, and we know people, they walked into a store and made a transaction. So this is another way where you convince your marketing heads to not to dig into your digital budgets to spend on YouTube, but pull in monies from traditional TV and print budgets, because that's much bigger portion even today in a country like India, where proportionately a lot of spends are attributed there, and they're moving to digital, but not in the ratio that I think I would really want to see it to. So my next question I have for you is an important one for which we are questioned a lot in the e-commerce channels, people who head e-commerce, and that is reverse logistics, cancellations, because a lot of time customers, I'm sure you face a lot of brunt on that. The COD orders, majority of orders, actually in India are all COD, because the customer does not want to make a payment and then, face the brunt of cancellations where a company is not willing to pick up or products are not being exchanged. So a lot of time what I have noticed in at least fashion in the industry that we operate in, people order a lot of stuff online and then they return it because they just want to try out sizes, they're not sure. How do you deal with that specifically at Flipkart, where a COD or reverse logistic would be a big cost to you?
Well, I think for fashion industry specifically, we have been building fashion for I think almost a year now, and you would be seeing a lot of Flipkart fashion campaigns separately. with superstars as well, right, on TV.
Yeah, so I'm confused whether I shop at Myntra or Flipkart now.
Right, I will come to that. Right, but I think on I think return logistic, I think it is very true that we're still trying to match the customer demand. Right, if you look at the kind of supply that we have today as compared to the kind of supply in logistics for fashion that we had a year back, you would see a lot of changes. Well, not because that Myntra and Flipkart is one company and we want to buy people only from Flipkart, but I think at the same time you don't want to lose the customer who is coming to you, right? Myntra, if you look at it, the segment is slightly different. It is slightly on a on a top-notch category where you have a higher brand and higher variety of products. However, if you look at Flipkart currently, we are targeting everybody who wants to buy anything, right? It can be a mid-segment, it can be also the higher segment, and that's a mix of the inventory that we want to do it. But just to answer your question, Myntra had already had a try and buy thing, and it's been going on successfully. Reason being that we don't want to increase, this thing, and also that gives a better customer experience. At Flipkart, we have a immediate refund on that thing, but just to answer your question, cash on delivery is not much for us. It
Really?
is, yes, it
Flipkart
is.
has got deep pockets. They've got a lot of money, right?
No comments on that. But yeah, but I think at the same time, it is on upward of I would say that 20% today, and that is majorly from a tier 2 or a 3 market. But we don't face that problem. Most of the payment still is online via, let's say, a net banking or a debit card also today, because of a lot of bank scheme which keeps going on.
Sorry, I'll just button, but do you mandate that a lot of times certain products are not available on COD? Is it because of that or because customers are willingly paying? I mean, why would
It's
I
a
want to pay?
behavior actually,
Okay.
right? And I think it's behavior because the adoption of net banking in India has been started thanks to demonetization and everything which has been happening to us, and we have been forced to do a lot of things. But I would say that the adoption of one is mobile, and then I think second is digital banking, which has been making life easy for customers. The 60-40 ratio or a 55-45 ratio of COD, we have seen it changing, coming down from let's say a 40% to a 20ish percentage now. And I think that's a great sign of essentially where we are heading to. However, I think cash on delivery will still be there. There will be a lot of people who will order and would want to only pay. But I think we are okay with that, because you don't want to order a shoe, for example, right? I order 4 shoes and 3 of them does not fit me, so I have to return it, right? But I think that acceptance at a management level is also there, that let customer try as much as they want, because they want to build fashion as also one of the strong pillars.
Shrikant, like you rightly said, I mean, he can afford to do that.
Yeah,
There's a lot of money,
no,
but how do you deal with that?
I can never afford to do that. So the only way we did, so this was back in Dubai when I was working with Landmark. So when I started off, this was 4 years back, our COD business used to be 70%. And by the time I left Dubai, our prepaid was 70%. So basically what we did was, it was all about incentivizing our customers to go for prepaid payments. Either do Apple Pay or debit cards or credit cards, PayPal. So we integrated with all those platforms. And we made sure either with bank partnerships, either give them cashbacks, or we made sure we give additional promotional discounts for anybody who opts for a prepaid orders as compared to COD. For COD, we would make sure, in a way, we're kind of discouraging, right? Obviously, not discouraging to shop, but then they will further get incentivized if they go for prepayment. So that was one of the big reasons why we could have that change from COD to credit card. And that further mitigated our risk of reverse logistics, because our returns dropped dramatically then. And then with returns dropping, your sales is always higher, and then your expenses are controlled.
Yeah, because reverse logistics can really drain a lot of your profitability from the e-commerce channel, and it's also a lot of blame is attributed to e-commerce because of these cancellations. One thing that really worked in the food industry is you have specific coupon codes that only work for online ordering if you are prepaying it, and Zomato and Swiggy do it, and at Domino's we used to do it. When you have a specific coupon for a percentage off, it only works if you are making a prepayment. And to give you statistics, customers who prepay a delivery, that cancellation is only 11%, and that is in my experience of the industry that I've operated in, versus customers who do COD, that cancellation is close to 30 to 35%. So you can see it's 3 times more. So customers who is willing to pay upfront, the cancellations are much lesser. So I think that is one thing at the takeaway. Abhishek, your last views on this? Before
Yeah, for reverse logistics, this really works out in favor of grocery e-commerce. The reason is, number one, you have time slotted deliveries. So customer chooses a time slot basis his convenience, a 2 hour, 3 hour time slot. Number two, the delivery timeline, unlike if you order a mobile phone or any other product, maybe an apparel, the delivery time would be in the range of 2 days, 3 days, and maybe at the time of delivery, the customer might, change his mind. Unlike grocery, which is a product which is the need of the customer, and the delivery timeline is in the next 3 hours and 4 hours. So in our case, the returns have been very, very low. I would say less than 2%. Order returns have been very, very low. There would be product returns, but customers not being available at home, customers not reachable, those are very, very minimal cases because this is a need. Not a want. So this in fact favored, for the online grocery.
Great. I think we are right on time, so we'll have 5 minutes for any questions that you may have for the panelists.
Okay. So I'm Saurabh. I represent this company called ClearDeco.com. We are present in northern part of India. We have 42 plus optical retail outlets. Now since optical as an industry, as a product has two challenges. One is that it is need based, and second, repeat purchase is very less. So just want to understand how do we drive more sales, because conversion is not an issue. 8 out of 10 customers who walk into our store would eventually buy the product. But what are your viewpoints on increasing sales in an optical store?
So I'll give you an example of what Canon did. So Canon in the US, so it's very similar because once you buy a camera, it's a very heavy investment. You won't buy another camera immediately. So should you target those customers or not? So basically what those guys started doing was they were still targeting the customers and telling them that it's been 6 months since you shopped. Why don't you come to our store and check out some new lenses which we have got. We will do some sort of servicing for you, right? So it wasn't about the fast selling which they were trying to do in terms of addressing, but it was just about creating that community. So I think that is something else which you can do as well, right? It's about the customer stickiness. I think if that is a metric, then sales will come, the numbers will come, right? Till the time you are conscious of the fact that how the data is helping you, till the time you know what your customers want. I know it may not happen that you get repeat sales, but then it is extremely important from an engagement standpoint. Once you have an engagement, eventually you will get a conversion.
Sort of just to add to what Shrikant said, I think as a category like yours, it's a very crowded space with Lenskart and the big daddies with a lot of deep pockets. So you can't traditionally take the war to search because you will bleed in the keyword war, right? Because it's very expensive. And acquiring customers digitally is expensive. It's not an easy business to do, especially in the category that you operate in. I'm sure you use Dropbox. Do you use Dropbox? Yeah, so okay, so maybe you're too young. So Dropbox was when I was young. So I used to Dropbox. So how Dropbox grew actually was, for every customer, every friend you shared a referral with, every time you tweeted, every time you spoke about it, you got additional GB, additional storage space. And Dropbox, that is how Dropbox actually, through referral, became one of the biggest channels without spending so much on digital. We tried that at Domino's, a referral strategy. Uber did that when they came to India, first ride free for your customer. That is your best channel, and I'm talking from an experience of 14 years in e-commerce. That is your most ROI-driven channel for driving from your existing customer, get new customers, but then there has to be skin in the game for them. You can't just give them a 10% off. There has to be, your next frame is on me if you get me 3 new customers. That's the kind of strategy. So in the Domino's US, what they do is, they say every time you order, on your 4th order is on us if you are, actually getting 3 more friends. So you actually see the whole slice in your digital app building up as and when your friends are ordering. Subway does that. They pool 8 friends together and they say every time anybody of those 8 people are ordering, all of them are getting some reward points, and then your 6th meal or the 7th meal is on us for all 8. So there are kind of programs that you can build upon or work upon. Other thing I would like to say is, uh, I'll talk about trekking. Let's say if somebody is selling trek gears, for trekking. So it's not about bidding on keywords, because the guy who's looking for trek gear is already made up his mind. I need to buy trekking gear. Look at people who are looking for holidays, who are looking for trek options in India. Create content around that, and for the long tail, and long tail searches are seeing a search jump of 4,500%. That is what Google released. Long tails are really picking up. There you will not have a lot of competition, but you will be able to really target new customers who are looking at right frames, right sizes, how many frames should I own. Look at long keywords. Try and occupy that space, maybe that a competitor is not occupying. That's my take. Anything, Mahip, you could add on?
No, I think on referral, I completely agree with Saurav on this, because we launched referral at Big Basket, I think almost now 2 years, and I think while we were doing a lot of acquisition from new channel on mobile app as well as on website, referral, when we launched, the scheme was very simple, right? We will pay you 100 rupees if your friend shops with us for 500 rupees, right? Believe me, 10% of the new customers ever shopped at Big Basket still comes from that same referral channel, and it's the most loyal one that we still see. So I would suggest that just frame it in a way that, for example, when we say that we will pay on the 500 rupees minimum purchase, it is on delivery when the order has been delivered, right? And your system should be able to ping it back. So we used a software called App Virality, which is ready plug and play thing, right? Now you need to just see that probably what is a value proposition that you want to propose for that business model. It can be lenses, it can be a free service, I don't know, right? But I think probably what Saurav said may work well for you.
Another example, because this Mahip pointed out, it reminded me, in a life insurance company at Aegon Life, where we were one of the first life insurance companies in India to launch a plan, we had an option where after a customer bought a policy, and this is a customer who's bought from us, we used to ask for referrals. So give us 5 names and email ID. Then it could be any random name or email ID. It may not be your friend, maybe your neighbor, maybe anybody. But the point was we wanted 5 name and numbers from you. And if you gave us that, we gave you a Book My Show voucher of certain denomination. And 17% of our revenue came from these new referrals, and it costed us nothing. It may seem very moronic to do, but do it. It really works. There are numbers. There are people who are telling you it works from the people who are doing it. So I think that sort of is the takeaway for you. You could try that.
Hi.
Sorry.
Sorry. My name is Digant. In 2015, I helped one of India's biggest hypermarket chains to start their omni-channel proposition, Spencer's Retail. So most of the questions or the pointers which were being discussed were somehow addressed by me. Be it cannibalization, be it creating space for inventory within the stores, or what Matahari today is doing, delivery from the stores, from the shelves. Right. One thing which I could not crack properly was, once all of this is done, right, how you get to consolidate all the data sources, because probably as a traditional retailer, your traditional data is probably in SAP or some other software, your loyalty software is running somewhere else, and probably your e-commerce is running on some other new e-commerce platform. How do you have one single view of customers so that you can have more omni-channel metrics or omni-channel use cases for communication so that you actually drive growth? So I was surprised no one touched loyalty as the metric to bind both the channels.
Right. So we invested in a middleware. So we called it Order Management System. So again, a lot of the big techies, they have developed this product, be it the likes of IBM, Manhattan, SAP, Oracle. All of these guys are doing that. Traditionally, retailers have in the warehouse, they have something called Warehouse Management System. In the store, you have POS. Then you have your loyalty program. So these are all siloed systems which are everywhere, and every system is capturing some data or the other, right? But then there is no consolidator. So this is where we launched Order Management System, which actually gave us a single view of customer as well as single view of inventory, because it was the only engine which was through APIs was pushing and pulling all the information it needed from all the other systems as well, processing that within that with the sort of order orchestration, with the sort of personalized marketing, segmented customer. So we got that system from the outside and just plugged it into our existing system so that none of our legacy systems could get impacted, but still we're able to offer a differentiated proposition and really leverage on that big data.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Bruce. My company is NetMeds, and interestingly, we established the brand online in 2015 and are in the process of opening 1,000 brick and mortar stores throughout the country, sort of a reversal of brand establishment. But I wanted you guys to comment, and especially Abhishek, I feel your pain because although the product is not exactly perishable like yours, the customer's tolerance for late delivery is equally. When they buy medicine, they expect it on time. So I wanted to get you guys' comments on the fact that you can spend crores of rupees building a brand, and at the end of the customer journey, it may be in the hands of an 18-year-old kid on a two-wheeler who's been given too many deliveries. So the question is the state of the courier, third-party courier infrastructure, and is there room for improvement?
You're talking about NetMeds, right?
I am.
Yeah, and what is the delivery timeline that you're expecting?
Well, the delivery time depends on the PIN code, and we quote the delivery time based on wherever the customer is.
So, do you have an average delivery timeline as of now? Do you have?
It's PIN code related, and again,
It's less than a day.
no, it's not. It's about 2 days.
Uh, I think one of your competitor, which is Wellness Forever, right? Wellness Forever, based out of Mumbai.
Could be.
Yeah. So this is the model. I believe a lot of online pharmacy retailers, in my opinion, I've seen NetMeds and MedPlus and a lot of other pure online retailers, wherein the delivery timeline is in the range of 2 to 3 days. And I've seen pure offline retailers also, which are now planning to go online, and they want to deliver the products in the next 90 minutes or in the next 2 hours. So if you technically ask me which model will really work for the customers, which will help you retain loyalty, would be a model wherein you are as close as possible to your customers with a good network of your offline stores, and be able to deliver the product to your customers in less than 3 hours. Availability of any pharmacy store is really not a challenge in my opinion if you are in an urban city. If you talk about you have Noble Chemist, you have Wellness Forever. So in a city like Mumbai or Bangalore, you would find within a radius of 3 kilometers each and every store. So if you're trying, if I'm a customer, because I have recently ordered, made a series of orders with NetMeds, and my personal experience has been when the delivery timeline is in the range of 2 to 3 days, versus I can just go to a nearby pharmacy store and get it in an hour's time. It definitely makes a lot of sense, to just buy offline.
Well,
But
if you check with the conservator at the forest outpost 6 hours out of Guwahati, he doesn't have that ability to go to a pharmacy. 65% of our customers are out of the metros. So the point I was really getting to was that when you serve all of India, and I think last year we served 12,000 PIN codes, the challenge is that last mile. And customers who are buying chronic meds don't expect it in 90 minutes. They're buying these medicines not for acute needs, but for chronic ailments, and they're buying them in advance. But again, when you have predicted 2 days, and 99% of your deliveries are getting there in 2 days, that's great. But 1% of 10,000 orders a day is a lot of people that are disappointed. And what it really is coming down to is that last mile is the challenging one. And it's one that I think we all need to work on.
So, and add to that, I hear your pain, I understand it, and I am so glad that you bother about that 1%. Not a lot of people I know would be bothered about it. That's a great company that you're building. Congratulations on that.
And you reminded me, I wanted to say one last story. A long time ago in America, the pizza delivery business was furiously competitive, and one of the big brands, I think it was Little Caesars, began a campaign, 30 minutes or your pizza is free. And they had to call it off because of the amount of traffic crashes it was causing. The drivers were racing to get there on time, and pizzas were all over the street.
In India, it's still there. It's still 30 minutes, you don't get it in 30 minutes, you get it free. Or 300 rupees off, that's the bottom line. You know, that not many people read that. But the point is, what worked for us at Domino's was, so you inform the customer. You know, you don't keep a customer waiting and uninformed. So you under-promise and over-deliver. So if instead of 2 days, when you have data that tells you these are the places where most likely delays are bound to happen, you don't commit 2 days, you say 3 days. So when a customer is informed, we have realized that the pain areas are lesser. So you know, when there's a dialogue rather than a monologue. The second is, when there is a delay, at least you know that the second day, you know, I'm not going to be able to deliver. Don't wait for the customer to discover it. The first day, inform him and tell him and make it good to him. So whenever we delivered pizzas which were not delivered in 30 minutes and it took 45 minutes, we made sure we informed the customer in the 25th minute, set expectations, and also gave him another, you know, something to make sure he comes back again and keep him happy. And if it's only 1% of the customer, it's worth doing, because these 1% will then otherwise influence other people. And like you said, you're so concerned about these 1% people, and the 99% you're doing a great job. So these 1% could become your brand advocates if you do the right thing by retaining them and keeping them informed. And people, if you keep them informed, what we have realized, they're generally not so complaining. If you tell them, you know, like, hey, listen, 99% of our time they're delivering on time, but you know, you are one of those customers in the 1% bucket where it's a delay, but here is something again off for you the next time you purchase.
You're right, and they can actually be turned around to become the most loyal.
Your brand advocates, and that has happened with us.
So we face something similar, what you just talked about on the last mile delivery. Of course, apart from all the aspects of under promise, over deliver, be proactive, preempt your customers and all of that. But I think the crux of the matter is it's your courier partners. They're just not doing the job. That's what we feel, right? So the way we did it is that we had the whole incentive-based program. We never paid them for a fixed charge. It's not that if it's a half a kilo, you will have at this fixed amount. It was more about managing your SLAs. So if you ensure that 99.8% of all your deliveries happen, I'll give you maybe 105% of the invoice value. And then if it's anything less than that, I'll give you 99% of that. So if they perform really good, go beyond the SLA, you pay them a premium amount, and you can still afford to do that because it's a great customer experience. But if it has gone down, then even the courier partner needs to face the burden out there, because it's only because of the courier partner you've lost a customer. So that is something which I think you should explore.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.